Thank you for joining Conversations for College Success. I'm joined here with Eric Barnett, who is a student I had back at Cleveland State University. And we caught up with each other at this conference, and I would love to find out what he's been doing, although we stayed in touch over time, but to actually see him at the conference was phenomenal. Now, Eric, I want to take us back to Cleveland State, and hopefully you remember when we were looking for someone to work at the Cleveland Metro Parks.
I do, yeah. I very much remember that, yes.
And he wasn't someone that I knew at the time. It was through a relationship that we found Eric. He did a phenomenal job because I've since talked to them. They remember him very, very well. But since that time, he's had a number of positions that have been very helpful to him and successful. I'll let you share the ones that worked, I'm going to say, the best for you or those that you learned from. Because the idea with the podcast of Conversations for College Success is to help other students as they navigate through not only college, but also after college.
College and life and sort of some of those decisions. Yeah, and I mean, thank you, Ms. Jones, by the way, too, for, there's also Dr. Mary Myers. I got to give a shout out to her who
absolutely.
helped with, helping with finding the job at Cleveland Metro Parks. And, that's one of the things I think that I often stress about for people when I'm talking to younger professionals is that it's a lot of times it's like the people that you meet along the way and who you know that help you sort of guide and create your career and where it goes. And I can very clearly look back at all the different steps in my life that I've taken that have come from relationships that I've formed at some point or another during that journey. And finding that with Cleveland Metro Parks through Cleveland State and through a career placement there, it was an amazing opportunity, and it let me go right into it while I was there. And the funny part is, so I was at Cleveland Metro Parks for a couple of years. I was basically their digital marketing coordinator. At the time, social media marketing was a brand new thing. I was a younger employee there, and I was the only person what's a Facebook? What's a Twitter? I'm I got you guys covered. So, so I set all this up for them and created this sort of whole marketing universe for Cleveland Metro Parks and grew it into this big thing. But the funny part is great and wonderful people who still work there. I still really enjoy, Brian Zimmerman, their CEO, is still someone I talk to, and they're great. But when you work in public service, in that case, when I was there, the pay is not as great as some of the other fees. It's very good for you, to feel people loved that I worked at Cleveland Metro Parks. Oh, you work for Cleveland Metro Parks. That's amazing. But I'm not going to lie, to make ends meet, I was a bartender when I was in college at Cleveland State. So I continued to bartend on the side, on the weekends. And that's actually where my next career move came to. My current career path was actually through the bar. And how that actually happened was one of my regulars at the bar, she was the HR director for Findaway. So it was Kim Sullivan. She was the HR director for there. And that is how I sort of got into the audiobook industry. I remember one night we were talking, and she just sort of looked at me. She was like, she's like, Eric, this is a really random question. I know, we usually talk about, whatever, a vodka soda, but she's like, are you looking for a job? And I was like, maybe. Yeah, I was like, I could be, of course. And so it's just, it literally was a perfect timing for that question. And it just became this amazing opportunity because of a friendship that I had formed, led to an opportunity that was there for me that sort of led to this pivot. And so I went to interviewed and went through the whole process there at Findaway. And actually what was interesting, I was actually originally interviewing for another marketing position I was at Cleveland Metro Parks. But sort of during the interview process, they were sort of this guy, he talks pretty good. He's actually pretty savvy. He knows the business at a broader scale. And it ended up being that they basically secretly interviewed me for a separate job, which was their business development manager, their manager of business development. So it led to this interesting career shift because of, this person I knew at the bar. And then I went through the interview process, and during the interview process, the way that the questioning went, they saw a different opportunity for me there at Findaway. And one of the people, I've had so many mentors along the way, yourself, including Miss Jones, but Mitch Kroll, who's their CEO, has been, you talk about those 5 most influential people. He is absolutely one of those who just helped me understand sort of my full potential as a business professional. And you're really blessed whenever you can go into these environments and find someone to help mentor you and guide you and teach you to learn the lessons that you started at university, but then sort of grow and expand as you get older and in your professional career.
That's huge. Now, first off, we're not going to make it sound like your regular. She was someone you saw periodically. at
Yeah.
the
Oh, I
bar.
don't view regular as a bad thing. I'm sorry. Yeah. But it's like, there's, I still, my wife still works in the nightclub industry and so I don't view it as a bad thing, but I get what you're saying. I get what you're
Exactly.
saying. Yes.
Because they don't know who she is or
Yes.
anything. So we don't want to put anything bad out
Yeah.
about her. Having said that, though, you are so correct in that so many people don't realize the people that come into your life may come into your life for a reason that you don't know.
Right.
So you really don't want to dismiss people. You want to have conversations, learn about them. That conversation that you had because she saw you on a regular basis, she was very impressed with you. So she had to ask you the question because she didn't know if you wanted to move up or not. I mean, that might have been your permanent, this is what you want to do for life.
I mean, I originally didn't intend to leave Cleveland Metro Parks. Like, I honestly loved my job there, my career there, but it was just like, yeah, you're right.
So important for the audience to know, as opportunities show up, you need to pursue them because you don't know where they're going to lead. Now, Find a Way was one, but then you went somewhere else after that. I don't remember what.
Yeah, so now I'm currently at Supporting Cast.
Okay.
So how that went, so I was at Find a Way, for I guess close to 10 years I was there. So, and they have a couple of divisions. I started doing business development on their physical product side. Eventually, they sort of needed my help on the digital side of the business. So they did both physical audiobooks and digital audiobooks. So I transferred over to that division, basically became more of like the director of business development while I was there. And mainly the job, like business development, is like trying to set up strategic partnerships. So it's very much like having conversations, trying to get people to use our product and figure out ways to grow the business for both sides of it. So really like corporate strategic partnerships. And one of the people who I was basically selling was like trying to work on a partnership with is my current CEO and boss at Supporting Cast. And it was very funny because it was like, we were at the time he worked for Slate.com, the news site, and Slate, they're basically what started Supporting Cast, my current career. But, they also sold some audiobooks. So I was talking to them like, hey, why don't you work with Find a Way? Like, we can help you sell some audiobooks, give you like this big catalog. And like, we had this conversation about trying to work together. And I remember David, he's like, yeah, let's catch up again. And I took the call with him. And it turns out like we got on there, he's like, I'm not going to lie, like I took this in false pretense. I don't have an interest in partnering with you, but I would like to know if you're interested in working for Supporting Cast and overseeing our sales and marketing.
Oh, wow.
And it was more or less like, we're growing. This business is more of like a startup, like it's smaller in size, but we think you would be perfect for this position. And it's different because it's more in podcasting rather than audiobooks, but at the same time, it's still audio. But the funny thing was like, at a fundamental level, I'm in basically tech sales or tech business development. And in both cases, I sold a complicated sort of like back-end tech system to allow people to sell audio, right?
Okay.
And the people who have that very specific set of knowledge and to be able to sell a complicated audio integration system, like it's like me. There's like 5 people, right? So they actually have that like skill set. So it fit really perfectly. Like you had changed some approaches and things like that versus like, talking to librarians and book publishers to talking to podcasters.
Gotcha.
But like, the fundamental elements are very, very similar at the end of the day as well. And so it's been like an awesome journey. And that was 3 years ago since I've been there.
Oh my gosh, that's fabulous.
Yes.
Now, I also saw you had actually done a talk somewhere too. I don't remember where you were a speaker at something.
So I do a few speaks. So at these events, usually I'm not speaking at this podcast movement, but I've spoken a couple of times at podcast movements or run panels. I was recently on the Podcasting Perspectives podcast and talking about some of the differences between podcasts and audiobooks there. So yeah, when you're in this job, when you're in audio, you have to talk a lot. Like that's just part of the journey or part of the course. Yeah.
But again, it is so phenomenal because to me, your career has taken such a trajectory. It's like, oh my gosh, who would have thought that someone from, Cleveland State University would be at a conference that's huge? And you go to more than one, I'm sure.
Yep,
So
this
it's
is the third one of the year. So and I'll be in London in about a month and a half. So
okay, now I got to find a way to go there.
Yeah, the podcast show in London is awesome. It's real cool. Yeah.
Well, I don't know if you have any final thoughts that you might want to share with our audience, and then I will wrap up.
Okay. Yeah, final thoughts. Well, one, just thank you for having me on the show. I do really appreciate this. It was like really honestly made my whole trip when I saw you here. I was like, I cannot believe this. Cleveland travels well, and that's all right. I always say that. But when it comes to final thoughts, and if I'm talking specifically to college students here, we're talking about those relationships. Like I always really harp on nurturing those relationships and those people around you, and particularly be thankful for sort of the mentors and people that help you along your journey. Like I can very specifically look back and be like, Mrs. Fowler brought me to Cleveland State, and I'm eternally grateful for everything that she did for me. And Dr. Myers and Miss Jones helped me get my job at Cleveland Metro Parks. And while I was there, and like I learned a lot from Brian Zimmerman, the CEO at Cleveland Metro Parks, and how to be a professional on that side. And then, meeting Mitch and everyone at Fine. Like there's just these people that you just see that help guide you, and like don't miss those opportunities because they're always there. And even if you're an introverted person, I know I'm like a painful extrovert, but like even if you're introverted, like I've met introverts who are some of the best conversationalists in the world. And it's just sort of having that relationship with someone means a lot.
Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast. You have no idea. I was thrilled to see someone that I remember as a student at Cleveland State University be in such a powerful position as it relates to that. And just to see the growth from where we first met to today.
Thank you.
It is amazing. It is impressive. And as Eric has said, please know that pay attention to the people who want to pour into you. They are trying to help you to be successful on your career and your next step. If you have questions, send them to conversationsforcollegesuccess@hotmail.com. Questions to conversationsforcollegesuccess@hotmail.com. Have a great day. Bye-bye.